The Foghorn, based on the short story by Ray Bradbury, rewritten by Adam Shea. Fade in. We see a wide view of a foggy cliffline. Waves are crashing against the rocky wall and mist is covering everything. The year is 1951. The location is the coast of Maine. A car is driving down the road along this cliffside, going at a slow and steady pace. His headlights only shine a dozen feet through the fog. In the driver's seat is a man named Johnny, who is driving toward a tall lighthouse. He parks near the lighthouse and walks up to the front door. He knocks on it, and the keeper of the lighthouse, McDunn, opens up.
I take it you're McDunn?
Indeed I am. And I assume you're Johnny?
You got that right.
Then come on in. I've been waiting for someone to help me out with the night shift.
They both enter the lighthouse and sit down in a kitchen area. McDunn pours 2 cups of coffee for them both.
So, you think you've got what it takes to do this job?
I don't see why I wouldn't.
Well, I don't blame you. This job ain't the most difficult, but most folks don't seem to want it.
That's fine by me. I could use some peace and quiet.
They both look out the window for a few seconds.
What makes you want that?
After being in this city so long, I'm sick of always being surrounded by constant noise.
Ah, I see. More coffee?
Of course.
Unfortunately, Johnny, it isn't all peace and quiet out here.
How come?
Well, every once in a while, you hear the sound of... that. You hear the sound of that.
Good to know.
It begins to rain outside, and thunder and lightning strike once more.
I suppose I ought to give you the rundown of things around here.
Go right ahead.
Our job is to keep that light shining and that foghorn operating. It involves lots of sitting around and doing nothing. But occasionally, we have to get up and actually do something.
When will we have to do that?
Sometimes we've got to talk with the Coast Guard or some ships over the radio, but beyond that, this is a pretty uneventful job.
Seems reasonable enough. So, now what?
We wait.
For what?
Something to happen.
Really?
I don't see what else there is to wait for. Do you got any better ideas?
No, not really.
Good, because neither do I. Well, that's our cue. Now come on.
They both get up and head over to the radio operating system by the staircase. McDunn pushes a button and a voice comes out of a speaker.
What's your status, McDunn?
It's fine over here. Me and the new guy have got everything covered.
I'm glad to hear that. I just called to let you know that the storm's expected to get worse pretty soon.
How soon?
If not now, then in an hour or 2.
Sounds about right.
I'll leave you be, but are you sure you've got everything under control?
Yep, we've got nothing to worry about.
The two of them head back to the table where they idly sit as the hours pass by. Just as the Coast Guard had predicted, the storm worsens. While Johnny quietly reads a newspaper, McDunn checks his calendar. He then looks over at Johnny.
You know, Johnny, there's one part of this job that I haven't told you about.
Is that so?
Yep.
Well then, what is it?
It's something that you won't read about in any manual, and no type of training can ever prepare you for it.
Go on.
It's a particular event that happens every year around this time. It's a rather strange event, if I do say so myself.
Care to be more specific?
Eventually. For now, just follow me.
Whatever you say.
Johnny follows McDunn as he heads up the stairs. They climb several steps until finally they reach the top of the lighthouse.
Well, we're here.
I see.
Now, if you don't mind, I'd like to...
The noise catches them both off guard, and they cover their ears. After it becomes quiet again, they resume talking.
Explain this situation.
Please, go on.
They are both still weary and startled from the foghorn.
Do you ever wonder how old the world is?
Not really. Why?
Because, Johnny, the world is very old. It's been around for millions and millions and even billions of years. Its history is too great for us simple folk to ever understand.
Okay.
In particular, this world's ocean is old. It's been around before life on land even existed. Given how it's so old, it's got to have millions of mysteries.
I don't see where you're going with this.
Don't worry, you will. As I was saying, the ocean has millions of mysteries. Too many to count. But, around this time every year, one of those mysteries shows itself. Do you remember what the foghorn sounds like?
Unfortunately, yes.
It has a very unique sound. It sounds almost like... like that. But doesn't that sound remind you of anything?
No.
Well, if you ask me, it sort of sounds like an animal call.
What kind of animal makes it sound like that?
Good question. It would have to be a very big animal to make a noise like that.
This noise, which comes from the sea, alerts Johnny and McDunn, who run over to the window to investigate. They gaze out the window, searching for the source of the sound.
What on earth was that?
I reckon that would be the, mystery that I told you about.
What?
Take a look outside. Tell me, what do you see?
I don't know.
In the harbor right below us. Doesn't something seem out of place down there?
I don't know what you're talking about. I can't see crap in the water.
Take a closer look.
McDunn points to the large body of water next to the lighthouse. There is a large dark shape in the middle of the abandoned harbor.
Notice those sounds. Don't they sound similar?
Yeah, they kinda do.
Exactly. That's what it's thinking too.
It?
Suddenly, the dark shape moves in the water. It's approaching the lighthouse.
McDunn, that thing is getting closer.
Indeed it is.
The head of an enormous creature emerges from the water. The head rises up, followed by a long neck and a partially exposed body. In response to the foghorn, the animal opens its jaws and answers back.
See, Johnny? That thing thinks the horn is calling to it. So it calls back.
What is that thing?
I don't know exactly what, but I know it's been around for a while.
It looks like a dinosaur, or a sea monster of some kind. Do you think it's something like that?
Perhaps. Perhaps it's a leftover from a bygone era. A living fossil. Perhaps it evolved from those creatures who were lucky enough to survive extinction. Perhaps it is one of those creatures that survived extinction. I don't know. But what I do know is that every year, it pays the lighthouse a visit.
Shouldn't we be worried about that monster?
Not at all.
What? Why not?
Johnny, just look at that thing.
The creature is resting idly in the water, calling back to the foghorn as it blares.
That creature is probably the last of its kind. It's got no one to socialize with, no one to talk to, no one to be with. If I had to guess, I'd say that the only real connection it has is with the foghorn. And can you blame it? It probably hasn't seen one of its own kind in countless years. So of course it would flock to anything that sounds even remotely similar to itself.
I guess that's understandable enough.
You and I have never experienced anything like that animal has. So there's no way we can really understand it. Still, it's a fascinating creature to behold.
Have you told anyone else about it?
Nope.
How come?
Outside of this situation, would you believe me if I told you that a dinosaur visits me every year?
Good point. Well, is it ever going to leave?
Eventually.
And how long does that take?
I'm not sure. I don't keep track.
Should we try shutting the foghorn off? The foghorn. Maybe we should shut it down.
Why?
So that it'll leave. If the noise stops, then that thing won't have any reason to be here.
I don't think I've ever tried that before.
Think we should give it a shot?
McDunn takes a look at the creature. It is focused on the lighthouse and nothing else.
You know, it's kind of sad watching this beast. It wants to find one of its own kind, so it calls out to the foghorn in vain.
And that means what?
Well, let's turn the foghorn off. I don't want to see this thing in such desperation anymore.
Alright then.
McDunn walks over to a desk with some devices on it. He flips a switch downward, causing the foghorn to cease.
Just to be safe, I'll shut off the light too.
The lighthouse goes dark, leaving the moon as the only source of light for miles. The creature slowly approaches the lighthouse.
Why is it getting closer?
Don't ask me. This was your idea.
Yeah, my idea which you went along with.
Oh, now this is all my fault, is it?
Well, you are the one who shut it off.
They both look out the window to see the creature staring directly at them. Its head is at eye level with them.
He looks mad. Should we be concerned about this?
Yes.
The creature roars loudly at the lighthouse. It raises its claw and slashes at the middle of the building, sending bricks and debris falling to the ground.
What do we do now?
Isn't it obvious? We run!
The dinosaur then chomps into another section of the lighthouse and tears out part of its wall. While it does this, McDunn and Johnny scramble down the stairs as fast as they can. They reach the bottom and quickly escape the lighthouse. The creature is still busy attacking it.
Why is it so angry?
I don't know.
Aren't you supposed to be an expert on that thing?
If you only saw something once every year, would you know everything about it?
Good point.
The dinosaur then stops destroying the lighthouse, which is barely left standing. It looks around and sniffs the air.
It stopped.
Yeah, but why?
The creature looks out at the sea.
What was that?
Trouble. That's what.
Suddenly, a different sea monster, a Chronosaurus, jumps out of the water and crashes into the first beast. The two massive reptiles collide into the broken lighthouse, knocking it to the ground.
What is that?
A Chronosaurus.
A what?
A Chronosaurus. A huge monster from the Jurassic. If I had to guess, I'd say that it followed that thing here.
The two sea monsters fight in the harbor, ramming and biting and colliding into each other. Their battle sends waves crashing all around them.
Has that other creature ever showed up before?
No, I've never seen it until now.
The two animals drag their fight underwater and further out to sea. Before long, both the first creature and the Chronosaurus are gone. McDunn and Johnny simply stare at the ruins of the lighthouse.
Well, that happened.
Yep.
What now?
I imagine the Coast Guard will be here soon. After the storm, they'll probably come to check on us.
Okay, but how do we explain what happened to the lighthouse?
We'll just say that the waves were a little too rough.
Do you really think they'll believe that?
It's a more believable excuse than saying that a pair of sea monsters destroyed it.
Good point. So now what?
Now we wait. More coffee?
The end.